What could be better than watching new explosions from which enemy ammunition depots explode and they lose equipment and manpower? Well, perhaps the successful actions of the Ukrainian troops during an event that cannot yet be talked about. I'm Maria Druska and this is our weekly news digest. Let's start. Monday, May 15th was truly explosive. The occupying forces that settled in the temporarily occupied Luhansk felt this firsthand. During the day, the building of the former Higher Aviation School of Navigators was struck. It's unclear by what the Ukrainian forces struck the building, but fragments of the ADM-160B MOL decoy missile were found near the explosion site, which is used to distract enemy air defense forces. As far as I know, such missiles have not been announced in any of the 8 packages before. But I guess this is another system that Russia has already destroyed, and those Russian tanks that explode because of them actually explode because of entirely unrelated smoking accidents. Can you see this photo? Well, now you know what a clinical idiot looks like. This is Igor Kornet, one of the collaborators who supported Russia's aggression against Ukraine back in 2014. This man held the position of the Minister of Internal Affairs of the so-called Luhansk People's Republic. This man adores fashion and beauty. Oh, did I say adores? Well, I mean adored. He was blown up in a local barber shop. Interestingly, he may well have been blown up by his own people because since 2014, Kornet has been racketeering and his competitors and accomplices were sent to basements or just killed. I want to emphasize once again that there is a law and there is a justice. And when there is not, there is karma, HIMARS, Partisans, and that's right, F16s. But this is a different story. So I'm taking full credit for this because I asked Santa for Reese's Cups, Leopards and F16s for Christmas, and if you don't believe me, I will even link the post before Christmas of me asking. On a slightly more serious note, I sense delicious vatnik tears in the nearest future. The long and difficult road to equip the Ukrainian armed forces with modern aircraft seems to be slowly coming to an end. President Zelensky had preliminary negotiations with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and French President Emmanuel Macron about the initial training of Ukrainian pilots on NATO standard aircraft. I remind you that the Ukrainian government and in particular the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense has a consistent position regarding F-16s aircraft, which should become the main aircraft that could be transferred to Ukraine in the future as part of material and technical assistance. The Netherlands has cancelled an order for F-16s to a private company, and this may be related to them wanting to send the F-16s to Ukraine instead. However, this is just that, and there is no any confirmation on this so far. US President Joseph Biden, speaking at the G7 summit in Hiroshima, publicly announced the transfer of F-16 fighters to Ukraine. The president assured that the United States, with its allies and partners, will remain unwavering in supporting Ukraine. Military aid will be provided as long as it takes to end the war. He said, I met with Zelensky and told him that the US and its allies will begin training Ukrainian pilots, and in particular, we intend to provide F-16 fighters to strengthen the Ukrainian Air Force. Further, it is rumored that the Ghost of Kiev has been watching Top Gun 1 and 2 on repeat to sign himself up to destroy some Russian planes. To be honest, I think Tom Cruise should watch the Ghost of Kiev's clips to see what Top Gun 3 should look like. That was a joke. Ghost of Kiev has not been doing that. He's been busy lightening up Luhansk, and he told me that to get the Crimean beach party invite, you need to hit that subscribe and like button. Seriously, he said that. Now let's talk about super modern and extremely effective Russian weapons. Do you know what these three men have in common? They all worked on Russian hypersonic weapons, which were claimed to be an absolutely new solution with no comparison in the world. To help you better understand the context, I will tell you how Russian new weapons developments are conducted. First, the Russian defense industry doesn't have all the capacities that existed in the USSR, so Russian designers rummage through archives and search for old solutions and options that were developed during the Soviet times and present them as super new, make a few artificial samples and then report to the leadership that everything is okay even if it's not. This was the case with the development of hypersonic weapons. In the USSR, this direction didn't materialize into something significant, and the topic is quite complex in general. During the time of Russia, they pulled out all documentation from the closet and began to try to make something new. This is how the famous Kinzhals appeared, which are actually an aviation version of the Iskander complex, which began to be developed during the Soviet times. This development was presented to Putin as a super mega novelty, made another cartoon for propagandists, and that was the end of it. Now the designers are being pulled into detention centers, probably because the result turned out to be unsuccessful and the money was stolen. Well, this is typical situation for Russia. Now, let's talk about explosions. In the temporarily occupied Crimea, unknown individuals blew up a railway track which derailed a train. Look at how modern that train looks. I remind you that the Crimean Peninsula has been under temporary occupation since 2014, and despite this, we have patriotically minded individuals who are ready to resist the enemy and destroy their logistic networks. On another note, I just want to thank those who are already supporting these videos through Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. This will allow me to continue improving the quality of the videos, and if you'd like to support the channel, I have left the links in the description below. Now, it seems that Russia has once again decided to remind the civilized world of its importance as a country and has started terrorist shelling of peaceful cities and infrastructure facilities using missiles and barrage ammunitions. Why have the Russians started shelling again? Well, actually the answer is very simple. Due to an increase in the numbers of explosions at strategic facilities on Russian territory and the Russian air defense and FSB being almost incapable of adequately responding to such threats, Russia's military political leadership urgently needed to demonstrate some success. As the war zone predicts no success and a narrative for domestic consumption was needed, the decision was made to shell Ukraine despite a missile shortage. In addition, following all Russian propaganda traditions, fakes about the destruction of the same patriots started to spread where, accordingly to their long-standing tradition, Russians destroyed even more patriots that were delivered to Ukraine. This, by the way, very much reminds me of the story with Iskanders. As Air Force spokesman Yuri Ignat reported, there is no sense in commenting on Russian information sources. Meanwhile, Reuters agency has received information from its sources that the Patriot missile defense system could indeed have been damaged as a result of the shelling, but the damage is not critical and will not affect the operation of the missile defense system itself. And if there were indeed damages, they have already been repaired and the Patriots are fully ready to defend the Ukrainian sky. On May 18, the spokesperson for the Eastern grouping of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Serhiy Cherevati, reported about the advancement of our armed forces near Bakhmut. Depending on the position, the advancement was from 150 to 1700 meters, even disregarding the superior enemy forces. I want to remind you that it is much more difficult to regain captured territories than to hold them, and for a successful offensive in certain areas, it is necessary to concentrate significantly superior forces and means than the enemy has. This is Joseph Stalin. On July 28, 1942, Order number 227, unofficially named Not One Step Back, was issued. This order included the formation of panel battalions and barrier troops who were ordered to shoot those retreating without an order, as well as making provisions allowing execution on the spot for desertion or retreat attempts. This order was issued after the unsuccessful Kharkiv operation. By the way, if you are interested in learning about the course of World War II on the Eastern Front, please write me in the comments. Why I'm saying this? Nowadays, in the 21st century, Russia is expanding the power of courts that will have the opportunity to convict former Russian military prisoners of war who surrendered without being wounded, while having the opportunity to fight to the end for the Russian world. As it's known, Wagner mercenaries and Kadyrov's men already perform the role of barrier troops. We now only have to wait for the Russians to start massively shooting each other at their positions. Now, look, there is a lot going on at the moment. Prigozhin has declared he's captured Bakhmut. Literally, why there is still fighting going on. This may or may not be true, but at the time of recording this video, the armed forces of Ukraine is still fighting in parts of Bakhmut, and well, I'm sure you know what's happening on the Russian flanks. Then Zelensky was in the Middle East, where he called those who stand quietly by or supporting Russia, and then yesterday we learned that he was as G7 in Japan, where he literally stole the show. I'm sure we will know more details soon, but it looks like good things are coming. And also, F16s, baby. Slava Ukraini!